In our busy lives, it can be difficult to find those quiet moments to really reconnect with our partner. But my next guest says it doesn't have to be a well planned out date night or a 5-day tropical retreat. It can be as easy as slowing down and taking a few minutes to be consciously present. One way couples can do this is through co-regulation, a simple but powerful practice that helps cultivate safety and security in our relationships. Couples and mental health therapist Patricia Lamas is on a mission to help couples connect by building those secure relationships. She joins me now with some insightful tips to start implementing co-regulation with your partner. Hi, Patricia, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'll admit I've heard this term, but I've never heard it really described or defined in detail. So kick it off for us. What's co-regulation?
Yeah, so let's first start with what is arousal regulation. And so that is that our automatic nervous system, it prepares us for action and inaction. So it's a way in which our bodies keep us safe, right?
Mhm.
And so we have different ways of regulating our nervous system. It can be through self-regulation, which is what we want. It's what we think of as, healthy, mature regulatory systems. We're able to hold ourselves when we're triggered, and we're able to just be adults even if we are having our feelings, right? So that's self-regulation.
Yeah.
And what happens is that we develop different regulatory systems and styles depending on our caregivers and how they self-regulate. So we're only as good of self-regulators as our parents were, unfortunately.
Hmm.
We can also grow in therapy to develop healthier self-regulation. So co-regulation is something that we're all able to do as humans. It's extremely powerful and wonderful, and we're one of the only mammals that is able to co-regulate. And what that means is that we have the ability to influence each other's nervous systems, which is super cool. So
Yeah.
what that means is that depending on where I am and my mood, etc., I can influence your mood and your state as well, right? So that can be a really bad thing, and it can also be a really good thing if we use it.
Yeah, let's harness it for good. In fact, you say there are specific benefits, such as that safety that we'll feel with our partner. It invites new opportunities for connection and for closeness. And you also say it can increase our drive to survive. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so what I mean is that not that co-regulation can increase our drive to survive, but that we have the capacity to increase each other's survival need, right? Like if we have a negativity bias in our brain, and what that means is that it would be very nice if our brain was wired for connection and only, because if we were positive, then we would stop and smell the flowers all the time. But that's not what we do. In fact, because what we do is our brain's main concern is trying to protect itself, right? And so if it had a positivity bias, we would be dead in a second, because we wouldn't be worried. We wouldn't be worried about anything. And
Oh,
so
we're
we would
so
probably,
selfish. We're so
right.
selfish, aren't we? Come on.
So our brains are really trying constantly to keep us safe. So I say a lot, we're wired for connection, but we're also wired for survival, which is, what that means is that really we have to put each other's safety first.
Yeah.
Because if we don't feel safe, we're constantly just wasting each other's resources
Mm.
in order to stay safe, right?
Okay.
And we can't focus on anything else.
You've got a few simple ways we can do this. And the first thing you prescribe or recommend is a 5-minute gazing exercise. Talk us through this quickly.
Yeah, so co-regulation happens body to body, face to face, eye to eye. And it's actually what we did with our caregivers in order to learn self-regulation. They taught us how to soothe through soothing us, right? If you pick up a baby, generally, what do? We look at the baby, we say, hi, baby, oh my gosh, don't cry, la, 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 right? So it's very face to face, eye to eye, touch, right? Holding.
Yeah.
And we forget that as adults, we're kind of like mini babies, but we are grown, right? And we need to do those things. We thrive on that connection, right? So connection is created through eye to eye, face to face touch. And so literally sitting for 5 minutes, I always tell couples they want to be somewhat touching, so they can, if they want to stand across from each other in a relaxed pose, they could be cross-legged and touching with each other's knees, or they could sit across each other it has to be eye to eye, face to face in order
Mm-hmm.
for it to be regulatory. And
Mm-hmm.
so they can just sit for 5 minutes and focus on their breathing, focus on what do they see on their partner's faces, what shifts, what do they notice, right? And this is really good because what happens is we are so quickly changing,
Yeah.
and so we never take the time to actually look at each other and what's happening with each other. And many times couples will tell me when they sit across each other, I haven't looked at you in such a long time, like
Oh,
truly seen you, you know?
yeah.
So
So
it's slowing us down.
as we do this 5-minute gazing exercise, you also say it could be a long hug. It could just be holding hands, but that physical connection helps us start to regulate. The breathing is interesting because it taps into that neurosystem pattern that you mentioned earlier. You also recommend something called face Play-Doh. Is that what you're talking about? Just rediscovering someone's face?
Yes, it is exactly that. It's rediscovering somebody's face, you know, with the person's permission. We're going to just agree to rediscover each other, you know. Let me look at your face. Let me play with it. If I notice something in your face that feels tense or tight or doesn't look proper, or maybe you're frowning and you don't realize it, maybe I'll just do a little shifting for you. And this is something that we did with our parents too, right? Like you see babies exploring parents' faces, touching and learning through touch. And it's very powerful and it's very honestly therapeutic. When I see couples do this, it's really beautiful to see because couples just it's so in our nature and we forget how
Yeah.
simple and how much like monkeys we truly are, you
Oh
know?
man, Patricia, I've got a super fast 20 seconds, but what about the partner who's a little uncomfortable with that? Like, I don't want you to play with my nose and touch my face, and even staring at you for 5 concentrated minutes is kind of
Yeah.
awkward. Really quickly, what would you say to that person?
I would say you can literally just sit with each other and breathe together, look down, but decide to focus on each other's breathing. And
Okay.
that would be something we could
All
do.
right, breath in, breath out. We can do that in sync. Patricia, where can we get more advice from you? Thanks for walking us through this.
Patricia Lamas Therapy on Instagram, TikTok, or my website, patricialamasTherapy.com.
Really interesting and super insightful, and seems to kind of click and make sense in how you described it as those, core human needs. So thank you for sharing. Great to connect with you.
You're so welcome.